I did take notes, but I did it on my phone this time. I felt like with this movie, it would be only appropriate to take digital notes. I was jacked into my iPhone, so I didn't bring my physical notebook, but I do have the digital notes for this movie, and I'm excited. I left the power gloves at home though. I thought that you might think that was a little much. I know last time I was on the podcast, came here dressed up, ready to go. I thought about getting a black suit and a black tie and kind of looking like a waiter and with my power gloves on, but I decided to just go for normal clothes today.
I was at the Providence flea market, which isn't like a real flea market. It's more just like vendor pop-up stuff. But if it was a real flea market, I might have been able to find like a Nintendo Power Glove, which would have been the move maybe for this.
That would be very cool. I think my dad had like the VR one where you would kind of put it on your face and everything was really red. And he let me try that as a kid a couple times. And I will say, red video games as a concept are brutal.
Yep.
It's like a migraine simulator.
Yeah, they gave everyone extreme headache problems.
And I was young when I tried it, so I was like, maybe I was like, able to deal with it more, kind of like, in Neon Genesis where they have the children pilot the mechs. We were just talking about anime, so I don't know if Bentley gets that reference. But I don't think as an adult I could handle the red Nintendo virtual gaming headset anymore, but it was cool. It was very novel. I do appreciate Nintendo really going for the cyberpunk vibes in the 90s. That's a difficult thing to do. Really the only time you could do it, and it wouldn't be considered kind of corny. But what can you do?
I was thinking like also just do like straight cyberpunk. Maybe throw on like a bomber jacket or like something leather with a popped collar.
Exactly.
I don't know. Sunglasses. It's like, this is a good Keanu Reeves cyberpunk movie, but it's not The Matrix.
Yeah.
So leather trench coat and sunglasses maybe would have been the move.
It is funny how we were talking about this before we started rolling, but he is the king of cyberpunk. He really
is weirdly synonymous with it.
Yeah. When he was in the video game Cyberpunk 2077, I was kind of surprised that he had a decent sized role in it. It's a good game. And as we were talking about before, I do find like that gamey experience was the skeleton key for me to understanding this movie and engage with it in a way that I don't think I would have had I not played the game and kind of like suspended my disbelief for what this movie was about.
I agree. There's a lot I want to talk about this movie because it's an insane convergence of a lot of different really good artists who hadn't made a movie before.
Yeah.
And then studio interference making it ultimately what the director said is only about 60% of what he wanted the movie to be.
Wow. Yeah. It definitely doesn't feel like a finished product in a lot of ways.
It is. Yeah, it's not.
It's kind of a mess.
It was recently not even recut, but just refinished by Roberto Longo, the director. Not Roberto Longo. Sorry, Robert Longo. I'm going to do that a million times. Oh my God. Robert Longo, the director, famous New York character, prominent artist, visual artist. This is his only feature film.
Oh, wow.
He had made a short before this called Arena Brains. He had made a bunch of music videos, really good music videos, for REM and New Order, most prominently, probably.
Shout out New Order.
I know. But this was his only feature film. This is William Gibson's first made screenplay, at least.
Wow.
The author, he actually was on board to make it. Both of them were really disappointed with how it ultimately came out because it wasn't exactly their vision. The studio needed a hit and recut it and tried to change the name and do all this stuff. But anyway, we'll get into all that. First off, I don't know how to start the podcast, as you know, so it'll either be that or something along the lines of Welcome Late to the Movies. My name's Ben Holton. This is a podcast where my friends and I get to fill in our movie blind spots. Each week, we'll pick a film that either I or a guest hadn't seen before and really should have by now. Debatable this week. But left to right, across your podcast style. The guest this week, Brady's here.
Hey, how's it going, everyone?
I'm good, at least. I was waiting, give the audience time to respond.
The cheers are dying down.
Yeah. A real uncanny valley of children's cartoons where they ask the audience a question and then just stare at you.
Yeah.
For 5 seconds.
Exactly.
Yeah, same thing. We should start doing that on the podcast more often. This week we're doing Johnny Mnemonic. This month is oh God, how did I do it? And I figured, not in the last episode, but when I was writing the description for the last episode, I actually landed on a title.
You hit it.
That was...
this is high concept. This is a high concept month for us. Yeah.
It's going back to, in parentheses, look at, in parentheses, the future.
Wow.
So
rolls off the tongue, that
doesn't
one.
it? Yeah, I think the sweatier, the better. It's a whole month of movies set in the future of when it was released, but in a future that has already happened.
Mm-hmm.
Last week we did Predator 2, released in 1990, about 1997. This week is Johnny Mnemonic, which is what, 2021?
2021.
Set in and released in
1995.
Made before but came out after Speed. So
Oh, really?
Keanu Reeves, all of a sudden, huge superstar.
Yeah.
So it goes from supposed to be like a quiet release in like the spring or something, and then all of a sudden the studio's like, no, we're putting this out Memorial Day weekend.
Wow.
And it's going to be our big thing, and then flop.
Yeah.
They just weren't... The dolphin didn't speak to general audiences.
We can get into that.
Okay,
What a surprise.
First off, have you seen anything good recently?
Now, I've seen two things. The first, I was recently on vacation with my fiance's family. Shout out. So her dad kind of took control of the TV one night, and he put on The Highwaymen with Kevin Costner and Woody Harrelson. It's about two guys trying to hunt down Bonnie and Clyde. It is definitely peak dad core movie. It is a movie that your dad will love, and he will tell you have to see it. And it's good. It's good. I think if I was going to watch a movie about Bonnie and Clyde, I would watch the movie Bonnie and Clyde that came out in the 60s. But it was definitely good. And then I recently joined a French film studies class at the library that I'm a part of.
Oh, right.
And we watched Le Bonheur, which is a French film. It's kind of almost like I won't even go so far as to say it's horror. It's like a romantic kind of tragedy. And it's a young husband and father, perfectly content with his life, falls in love with another woman, and kind of the tragic consequences that come from that. And it was good. It was good. I really enjoyed being part of a film discussion. You know, I love getting on the pod and talking about it with you. So if anything, this is just me sharpening my podcasting blade when I'm at the film studies every month. So it was good.
Stealing some hot takes from the elderly.
I will say I was about the youngest person there by about 45 to 50 years. But we had a lot of people who lived in France. They're like, yeah, back when I lived in France in the 70s. I'm like, wow, that's cool. So, it was fun. But nothing. And then I rewatched Shrek.
Okay, yeah.
And it was great.
Yeah.
It holds up
In the
surprisingly
same
well.
class?
Yeah, in the same. We actually, no, separately.
It's like Shrek, but it's spelled like with a Q-U-E.
Yeah, exactly.
I haven't watched anything since the last time I recorded, which was on Monday, which is a holiday. So, and then during the week, busy, whatever. But I for the first time, read Fahrenheit 451. So
For your first time?
Yeah, I didn't have to in college, and then it was just not a thing I ever picked up. So I read that this week. Loved it.
It's fantastic.
Turns out good. Who knew?
Turns out Ray Bradbury.
Yeah,
he can really write a novel.
I've read some of his shorts before, but I'd never read.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
It's so good. I loved it. I've been reading a lot of, I don't know, just something in the air. I've been reading a lot of like dystopian.
Yeah,
Fall
does that to you.
Anti-censorship stuff lately. Yeah. So it's been weird. I read 1984 for the first time earlier this year too.
You're like hitting all the hit. What other? Any other books that you like feel like we should do a late to the library podcast?
I know, for real. What else did I get? In a similar vein, for the first time this year, I read White Noise.
Oh, nice.
Which was great.
Yeah.
And also sort of a dystopian future, not necessarily about censorship, but all of them about media.
Yeah.
It's all about media in some way or shape or form. So that's sort of, I guess, where my interests are.
Fahrenheit 451, though.
Yeah.
The fact that I have like all these people who have like memorized novels and books and things like that, I thought that was so cool.
It's great when the guy's like, that's. And
then they made a
and John and Peter
limited series with
MBJ. I was like, do I want to check that out? Because I remember
it's not very good.
That's what I hear too, and it's like,
he's always good.
And it's such like a tight book that there's so many novels that get adapted to limited series.
Yeah.
That it's this one. It's like, why not just make one good movie? It's It's a pretty tight story.
Yeah, and it was like 350 pages. If that. Yeah.
Yeah.
We should check it out and see if it's worth talking about.
Yeah. I mean, speaking of something that's been in development hell forever and has never actually been adapted into screen, William Gibson's Neuromancer.
Oh, I read that last year.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
I mean, it's really freaking good. And it would they made an amazing movie, but
yeah.
The rights of it were already taken by the time this movie got made. So that's how long the rights for Neuromancer have been in like development.
Wow.
Because when William Gibson expanded his short story, Johnny Mnemonic, into the screenplay, he wanted to reuse the Molly character from Neuromancer. To be functioning in this story the same way that I forgot the character's name, but the lady that was on Beverly Hills 90210.
Yeah, I could pull it up. Her name is Jane. Very memorable.
I hate doing the thing where I'm like, so I know all the actors that are men's names, and then the lady that was there that was in this other thing. I hate doing that, but in my defense, the story kind of does that too.
She doesn't have like a cool name like Johnny Mnemonic.
Yeah,
just
or
Jane.
Molly Millions.
Yeah. It's so I think like the closest, as of right now that we have is probably the cyberpunk. Yeah. Well, just Johnny. Is Cyberpunk 2077, which video game for those non-gamers out there. Keanu Reeves is in that. We've talked about it a little bit. Phenomenal game. A little bit of a rocky start when it was released, but it kind of follows the beats of Neuromancer basically to the end. You know, there's a net runner. There's a big heist. There's going into the what word do they use? Oh my gosh. When they jack in, they go into the cybersphere.
Yeah. It's tough because in Neuromancer, they go into the Matrix.
Yes.
So that's where my brain went.
Yes, exactly.
So it's one of many terms that William Gibson coined.
Yeah. So if you're desperate to see Neuromancer adapted and you're also a gamer, I highly recommend Cyberpunk 2077.
It's great. There's a lot of people jacking in. I'm in.
In my notes,
There's
I
hacking.
have right here. I have jack in was one of the points that I raised because hit me, and then I love as a fellow mouth guard user for grinding my teeth. Anytime I can see a mouth guard on screen, I feel like that's me.
Do you sleep with a mouth guard?
Oh, do I?
Okay.
I have to.
Okay.
His seemed to be like a soft plastic. Mine's got to be a hard plastic. When I'm jacking into my dreams, you know what I mean?
Is that to like protect your own teeth and jaw, or is that for like other people's noise benefits while they're trying?
Mainly for me, but it's also for my fiance. I'm a grinder. I don't stop grinding when I'm awake, and I don't do it when I'm asleep either.
Speaking of grinding, the Patriots game just started. I don't know if you.
Oh wow!
I was just like, maybe I'll throw it on in the background, and then this is how much I remembered.
Oh yeah, I forgot I forgot it was even football season.
It's like, it's fine. So let's get into it. I hadn't seen this movie at all before. I had known about it on reputation, and not like a positive reputation, on the reputation that most people know it by. I know there's been some reclamation recently. 2021 is when Robert Longo put out the black and white version of it.
Okay.
That's supposed to be closer to his original vision of it.
Interesting.
As sort of a more neo-noir, which you can see under the surface but not fully realized.
Yeah.
Which is very much in the cyberpunk video game. They're doing a lot of noir stuff, depending on which storylines you follow.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah. So let's get into it.
Yeah, I think starting off, what was interesting, one of the longer info scrolls that I've ever come across. There was a lot of information, and I appreciate that it's on there, but you can tell that it's like it was being adapted from like a short story, and I think that could put a lot of people off because it's like it's a lot of like jargony kind of language, and you're kind of thrown into this conflict, kind of willy-nilly. It doesn't really feel like a Star Wars opening scroll. It's more of a info dump opening scroll, and it's an interesting way to start the film. It's
a really interesting way to start the film. I feel like that's the thing I didn't look up that much contextually about the movie until I had finished watching it, which I'm glad I watched it first, and then was watching a thing about the sort of horrific development and production and all the studio interfering when they pivoted from this will be like a small budget movie into this has to be a massive blockbuster.
Yeah.
And they cut scenes, changed things, rearranged it, all outside of the actual creative team's control.
Yeah.
They changed the soundtrack.
Oh, really?
So the Japanese version of it with the original soundtrack, you can see some clips of it on YouTube, and the music works a lot better.
Oh, interesting.
But they took all of the like kind of vibey, much more noirish music out and replaced it with the sort of sub-Dragula butt rock that goes throughout the movie.
Yes.
Which is funny because then a few years later, in 1999, when The Matrix comes out and that first scene where Dragula is playing where he meets Trinity, you're like, this is the exact cyberpunk vibe.
Yeah.
But the 1990 version of that, this was not. It's really jarring.
Yeah.
The music's very bad in this movie.
And I remember I made a note here. There was when we're at the
Dolph Lundgren character was apparently the studio demanded that Dolph Lundgren be in this movie, and William Gibson, Robert Longo were like, I don't know how he fits this vibe, but there was a small character that the street preacher was in, like I guess in the original script or in the short story. That street preacher character was small, and they were like, let's just turn him into like a weird messianic complex guy.
Yeah.
Make him sort of the main antagonist. He's the guy that the big fight scene's against, even though he's sort of just like hired by the big bads.
Yes. And also there's that fake out at the end of the movie where he's like starting to like crawl, but really it's just like a crane lifting him up and then tossing him off the bridge, his like charred and disgusting corpse, you know?
That apparently was I can't think of the word, but like a tantrum sort of thing from Longo and William Gibson, because the studio demanded that the Dolph Lundgren character have a End of Terminator style. He's like a crispy robot guy that's not dead yet. And so the fake out was because they didn't want to do that. They thought that was stupid. So they put the fake out in thinking that the studio would be mad at them, but they liked it. So they got to keep it.
Oh, how fun, you know.
So that's why it's sort of just like a random fake out. That's like, I guess there's a comedy beat here at the like end of this. Yeah.
I also thought like you were talking a little bit about music. So two music things. There's the opera metal, where, you know, they're at the bar and there's the opera singer, but there's also like hardcore metal music playing behind it. Mm-hmm. And then the intrepid, the one, the only, Henry Rollins in this film.
Yeah.
I am a huge Henry Rollins fan.
Mm-hmm.
Big Black Flag fan. Ooh, say that 5 times fast.
Yeah.
Big Black Flag fan. Really interesting. 1995, this movie came out. He's also in Heat. In the same year. So he's a busy guy that year, and he's great. You know, kind of great when he gets work. You know, always happy to see Henry Rollins in anything. So
we've maybe talked about this offline before, but I don't know if I've mentioned it on the podcast before. But this is a first for the podcast that there's someone in a movie we're covering that I've interviewed before, and it's Henry Rollins.
Met Henry Rollins?
Yeah.
No way.
There's me in college on YouTube. If you just Google, or not even Google, if you search on YouTube, Henry Rollins Emerson.
No way. Was he nice?
He was super nice. I interviewed him for like an hour. It was extremely intimidating.
Yeah.
And then he asked me some questions at the end too for like this YouTube series he was doing around a spoken word tour he was doing at the time.
No way.
And they cut those, and it's like in the video, and it's super embarrassing because I was like
so cool,
an extremely dumb college student.
No.
And then one of the comments is mean, but that's okay.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh.
So like this kind of like non-answers I get anytime I ask the youth like questions about how they think the world's going. It's like, dude, I was full out of body experience, super intimidating.
Yeah,
it's like an hour-long interview.
Wow, that's great. My closest connection to Henry Rollins is that he attended American University for 1 semester. Mm-hmm. I attended it for 4 years. And he worked at the Haagen-Dazs in Georgetown, and I've eaten at the Haagen-Dazs in Georgetown. 20, 30 years apart from these two moments, but I'm a big Henry Rollins fan, and anytime I see him in a movie, I get very excited. And I was glad that he had like a larger role in Heat. He kind of like gets beat up by Al Pacino, and the guy from The Dark Knight, whose name I don't remember, is like his boss. But, you know, this was cool.
Yeah.
I love that they just keep his tattoos. He's got like his Misfits tattoo. He got his Black Flag tattoo on the back of his neck and the one on his bicep. And it's like,
sort of works for this.
It does.
For the
it's
attitude
like,
of that
it's like
guy.
2021. Those bands existed, you know.
He apparently doesn't care about sci-fi, but he loves Robert Longo's art.
Wow.
So
yes,
he was into this.
That's cool. That's cool.
I do want to check out Arena Brains because the cast is like surprisingly good. The short that Robert Longo made before this.
Oh yeah, it's funny. Like you mentioned, like he's kind of more well known for his art.
Yeah.
Because there's so many like striking visual components in this film
like,
that
it looks legitimately cool.
That make it from like being like it's so bad it's good kind of film to kind of like there's a vision here, there's like a mind at work, and it's unfortunate that we didn't get to see what that vision was completely.
Yes.
Like when the preacher pulls out the crucifix knife.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, what do we got going on? And then,
what are we cooking here?
Yeah, it's like someone is cooking here.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what they're making. And then, you had the kind of scene under the bridge, and, it's like this huge kind of elaborate structure of like art and like metal and like, transhumanism kind of stuff. It's very interesting. And you have like all the CRTs like shaped like a cross, and there's so many images like that where you're like, okay, what's going on here? And it ultimately kind of falters. It doesn't like necessarily stick the landing, but it's very cool to like see a world that doesn't feel just like soaked in neon.
Yeah.
And isn't just all about like empty blank space. Like I love the new Blade Runner movies. Yeah. But there's a lot of just like futuristic minimalism that's at play in like the background, and this is not like that at all.
This is the sort of like he ends up with the crew that calls themselves the low tech
crew. So how's it spelled? Like kind of crazy too.
Kind of
like LOW capital T EKS.
Should we do a 1 minute plot summary before we get too far into the movie?
Do you want me to do it?
Yeah, go for it.
I'll handle it. So this one's a little bit easier than The Talented Mr. Ripley.
Yeah.
So it starts off with Keanu Reeves, titular character, Johnny Mnemonic. He is a courier, and he can, maybe it's not as easy. He can put information into his brain because he's had his childhood removed. So he can now store up to 128 gigs.
Something like that.
160 gigs because he downloads 320 gigs. And so in order to like kind of get past customs or get past security measures, he downloads this in because he's wet wired in his brain. So he downloads 320 gigs of what we ultimately find out is the cure to this kind of disease that's going on that's affecting people in the world. And the large corporation, the faceless kind of corporation, I mean, it does have a face, but, is after him. And Farmco, is that its name?
Yeah.
So they're after him. They're trying to kill him. And he is like having like brain bleeds, and he's going to die because he downloaded too much data. And he's trying to get this information to the low-techs, which is kind of like a Luddite person who are trying to stop the world from ending and kind of like make everything free, very true like hacker mentality of like, the information should be out there. It should be for everybody. And it's really just him trying to get this information to these people. And he kind of has to kind of go through his own hero's journey of like, is he going to get this information out so he can remember his childhood because he's saving to remember his childhood because he had it deleted in order to be money for a courier. And ultimately, he kind of arrives there. He ends up siding with the low techs, faces off against the evil corporation, gets his memories back. Kinda. They have like a birthday party that
turns out his mom made the company or something.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, his mom is there. It's his 7th birthday, and the heroes and the disease or the cure for the disease is like released into the ether for all to kind of have and to use. So that's about as well I could do. It's a little bit of a convoluted movie though.
Yeah, and it does end in a way that's like, oh, I guess David Fincher saw this because our two romantic leads like hold hands while watching a skyscraper burn from afar.
Oh yeah. Very funny that the skyscraper was on fire. I was kind of wondering.
Right.
I was wondering when it caught on fire.
Right. Yeah.
But it was good, but
I honestly didn't pick up on that either, but I was looking at the plot summary to try. It was Pharmacom is the company.
I see.
And it's like the AI is revealed to be a virtual version of Johnny's mother, who founded Pharmacom and was angered by the company's actions. Like, I don't remember that.
Oh yeah, I don't. That was not clear to me as a viewer.
Right. That wasn't clear to me either as a viewer. And then I went back. It's like, I'm on the movie, right? I'm not like, maybe that's part of the short story.
Yeah, I don't remember
no, this
him.
is the movies page.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
That kind of does like change like an element of it, I guess, because it is like the way in which like the camera like kind of pans up and reveals the woman at the end, like when he gets his memory back. It's like, you should know her.
Yeah. It's the AI. It's the face of the AI
face of the
he's
AI.
been seeing and sort of like dismissing.
Because she's like blue and white. And then when I see her
it's
in
like,
full
it doesn't
color,
really look like the same person to me.
Yeah.
But I guess that's what they're going for.
Yeah. And the woman who Takayashi, the owner of the CEO of the company, is like talking to her. I guess I hadn't realized that.
Yeah.
That was not clear.
That was not
That's
clear.
a little bit of a failure of the movie. I hate to, I don't want to be negative, but that was a bit of a failure of the movie.
Again, I think William Gibson's put out his original screenplay elsewhere, and it's apparently better, but I don't have time to read it. I've read his screenplay for Alien 3 that he wrote.
Oh, yeah? Better than the movie? I've never seen the movie, so I can't really talk about it.
It's very different. It's more like an alien movie than like a prison movie, which is maybe what people would have been looking for. But there's there's at least a few different like full cast audiobook versions of the William Gibson Alien 3 screenplay. It's pretty good. The cast in this, we've already mentioned Keanu Reeves, Dolph Lundgren, Henry
Mr.
Rollins.
Cyberpunk himself.
Yep. Dolph Lundgren, exactly.
Who is Raffi?
So that is cult icon Udo Kier, who's in like a million cult things and worked with every cult director.
I liked him.
He's got a hell of a face.
I think like he was like the character that feels like the most video game-esque kind of character, but also like when I was sad that he got like sliced in half. The effects were like decently cool.
Yeah, how you see like his
like meat.
Yeah,
you
see
know,
his
like
meat
his like
slough off.
Yeah,
that sounds way grosser than it looks. It's
with
pretty
like
cool.
his cyber wire. Yeah, I
his
kind of like wish he hadn't been eliminated so soon. You know, like, he was great.
This is one of 8 different 1995 film credits Udo Kier has.
Wow.
So he's working. So it's hard to be like, here's what you know him from.
Yeah.
Because that's not.
I always respect that, like those actors who are like, I got bills to pay. Rent is due.
Rent's due. But he's worked with every cult director.
I'm gonna have to check out some more of his movies. Yeah.
Ice-T's in this one too.
Yeah,
There's J-Bone.
There's a couple moments where I was kind of not paying attention, but I was kind of like, watching the movie, and then Ice-T came on, and my brain gets switched on to SVU mode, where I'm like, when you only hear a character's voice really in one context. When he was talking, I was like, wait a second, what? You've got the anarchy symbol kind of tattooed on your forehead, and you've got like this really long hair. But in my mind, I'm just watching kind of a crazy episode of SVU right now,
Yeah, and he's not doing like a voice or anything. Not that anyone really is doing like a different voice, but it's just him.
Yeah, it's just Ice-T. Yeah, it was good.
It's hard to say if anyone's like good or bad in this movie, just on how it had the final product. It's not like an acting showcase.
Yes, there's
is good.
Jane's character, I think.
Yeah, Dina Meyer is that actor.
Yeah, I think she's not bad, but I think the script doesn't really work for her. Some of her line reads are a little bit stilted, and I think it's tough. They're doing really good with the material that I think they have,
yes.
But I think that ultimately the movie's a bit of a mess because of it doesn't really form a cohesive narrative. In a way that would have been cool. It
seems like it was really chopped and screwed in post-production.
Yes.
And I think I might try to seek out at least the screenplay, if not just read the short story. I know this is super expanded from the short story, so the screenplay is a little more interesting to me, but I am curious if it hangs together more, because everyone who worked on it, they're like Keanu Reeves, Robert Longo, and William Gibson remained friends and have had discussions about this afterwards, and we're like, oh man, what we had was awesome, and they really messed it up.
It could have been great.
It's too bad people didn't get to see the movie we thought we had made.
Yeah, there's a moment in this where Keanu is kind of yelling, and I've got two funny moments. But he's kind of screaming and yelling.
He wants room service.
Yes. They drop a flaming Volkswagen Bug on him, and he goes, "What the fuck is going on?" That was literally me, in the movie where when they dropped the Volkswagen, I was like, "Okay, what is going on?" And then I do I want room service. I want my shirts laundered, and that was really great. Though that's those scenes like that, I'm like, this movie needs to buy into that kind of silly B movie.
Yes.
Plot line.
That speech was written the night before they shot that by William Gibson in response to how bad of a time they were having shooting the movie.
Oh, no.
Yeah. And that was them just putting their own thoughts and this sucks. I'm having a terrible time. Yeah, it is.
Wow.
Both for Gibson and for the director, Robert Longo. They hadn't made a feature film before, and they had a lot of compromises. They wanted to work with a specific DP, director of photography.
Yeah.
But then they moved production to Canada to cut costs. And when you film in Canada, a certain percentage of the crew has to be Canadian. So they ended up with the guy who shot Weekend at Bernie's instead of a more vibier thing they were looking for.
Wow.
It ballooned into the most expensive production ever in Canada when they thought they were making a small noir pastiche. So it ballooned way beyond that. Then that changed what the studio needs it to be after that.
Yeah, they need it. It needs to make big bucks.
You mentioned the dolphin and the CRTs and everything. That set alone, that soundstage was $3.5 million in 1990 money.
Wow.
And apparently, it does look awesome.
It does look really cool.
It's got so much analog stuff.
Yeah. Now, something I didn't feature in my 1 minute plot summary is the dolphin. So this is kind of
it would have been hard to work in, even though he's an important character.
He's kind of the floating specter of this episode of the podcast. So let's talk about it. There's a dolphin in this movie who was once working with the United States Navy.
Yep.
They jacked him up with cybernetics.
Is this implied to be a sequel to that movie about the dolphin that tries to assassinate the president?
I think it is.
Yeah.
I don't know that movie though.
I think it's called the dolphin that tried to kill the president.
So this dolphin is I don't want to say he's the leader, but he's kind of a big part of the low techs. He's not a talking dolphin. He's floating in water, but he can talk and he can communicate, and he kind of has psychic powers in a sense. I don't know if they're more psychic or more electric powers, electromagnetic powers. If you're listening to this podcast and maybe we're folding laundry or doing the dishes and now you're very confused, just imagine how it felt watching the movie, and all of a sudden you realize that the dolphin is one of the most important characters in the film, or the most powerful to help our characters in the film. It's sort of not exactly all in real time, but from pretty early on in the film, Johnny discovers that he's looking for a doctor called Dr. Allcome. When he gets to Spider, Henry Rollins' character, he says, that's a code, but the one guy that could help you is named Jones. Yes. Go find Jones. And find Jones. Jones is going to be the guy who can actually help you, who can save your life, and it turns out Jones is the dolphin. Jones is the dolphin. And real quick, the movie I was thinking of is called Day of the Dolphin, and it has the best tagline ever, and I do want this poster. Oh, let's see. The Day of the Dolphin. Unwittingly, he trained a dolphin to kill the President of the United States. Wow. That is a very cool. It seems like a fake poster, like you'd see, seem like a fake you would poster. See in a video game or something. I think that needs to be a special bonus episode of the podcast for our Patreon members. It's tough. Okay, I mean we've done only one Mike Nichols movie so far, so maybe this will be the second. That sounds good to me. We've not done The Graduate yet, but maybe we need to do Day of the Dolphin first. Yeah. Also, we need to talk about. It's kind of like talking about the dolphin, the ending kind of animation scene where they're jacked into cyberspace. And there is a 3D computer generated image of Keanu Reeves as he navigates cyberspace trying to download the data that he has stored in his head.
Yeah.
And there is a digital dolphin
Yep.
kind of supporting him. There's like a game of Overwatch, you know, playing as like a supporting character. Listeners, I don't want to big sir you on this. I don't want to like make it seem like I'm kind of talking, you know, hyping it up too much. That was one of the craziest things I've ever seen on a film in my entire life.
Like, I just can't believe they're doing this. He goes into the cyber sphere a couple times earlier in the movie, and you don't see a projection of him, and certainly not of a companion dolphin.
No.
It's more like, I guess, a first-person thing. You're just seeing his hands move around.
And they're like...
When he makes his long-distance call to Beijing, and the guy's like, get out of here,
get off my board, Johnny. He's like, I could burn your whole board. He's like, this is my livelihood, Johnny. Don't do it, Johnny.
It's like, my livelihood.
Like
he's kind of doing a South Park voice.
He really is. I do love those moments. But at the end, the big kind of confrontation scene, you do see a fully realized Johnny. It's only can be described as a basic caricature of a human being. It doesn't look anything like
very
Keanu Reeves. Very almost like a can of soup for a head.
Yeah, proportionally Gumby, but not structurally. If that makes sense.
The dolphin is very recognizable as a dolphin.
It's like, that's definitely a dolphin.
And it's like kind of like, I don't want to do a dolphin impression on the podcast, but he's kind of floating around making dolphin sounds above Keanu Reeves. And Keanu Reeves is like, yeah, man, got it. I'm trying to jack in, you know.
He's like,
and it's literally the dolphin is doing that.
Good idea, dolphin.
He's like, yeah. And then he like cuts to his teeth a lot. There's a lot of teeth just clenching.
It really hurts. This is super painful.
Oh God, this is but it's so funny every time he goes.
LA acting.
It's true. What does he say? He goes, what's his catchphrase in the movie?
He says, "Hit me a lot."
Hit me. It almost seems like it's gonna be like almost like euphoric for him, like he's gonna like it. But then the second they do hit him, he's all out grinding in agony.
Yeah.
I think this movie is worth watching just so people can understand kind of the strangeness of this final animated sequence.
It is something else. And it is sort of like, okay, we have a guy that's primarily an artist.
Yeah.
If he made this movie, 30 years later, I really wonder how he would have executed that segment.
Yes. Yeah. I also think like anytime cyberspace is shown in this movie, it's so funny because, we can all kind of sit here and be like, if you hear there's a wood chipper going on upstairs. I don't know if you guys can hear that. I actually just think it's a vacuum.
Yeah. Their apartment's smaller than this one, so they shouldn't take too long.
That's good. Yeah.
Or we'll just push through maybe. I don't know. It's fine.
Okay. I guess what was I talking about?
Dolphin.
The dolphin.
How the I had said if they made it 30 years later, how much differently they would have executed this sequence.
Yes. I would like to think that if they had made this movie today, it wouldn't have used the vision or whatever they call it, that every kind of show uses now for a background. But I would hope the dolphin was in it.
He better be.
It almost seems like this was the kind of they would take the dolphin out just to kind of spite us, because they know we're here for the dolphin. Now
that we know, they have to withhold the dolphin.
I do think if I was in a movie theater and the dolphin made an appearance, I would be shocked. I can't believe this movie didn't make make its money back just on people being like, you've got to see the dolphin, man.
It is so close. It's only a few degrees away from being like a midnight movie, of being like this is shown at indie theaters and people throw buckets of water at the screen when the dolphin.
And then they're like, all right, when the dolphin comes on screen, do your best.
Yeah, everybody does a dolphin sound.
It's
everyone throw your knife crucifixes at each other when
everyone
Dolph Lundgren
raises it
here.
like in Dune Part 2. I do think, and then there's so many striking visuals that I don't want to like oversell the dolphin, but this scene,
he's got a cool helmet and red eyes.
He's got like a little thing on his head. that like kind of comes up, and it's like almost
he
like a little
kills Dolph
turret.
Lundgren.
He seemingly with psychic powers.
Yeah.
And Jane kind of helps him. She aims his like
She
satellite dish at him, like DirecTV, kind of blasts him to death.
Yeah. I like that Johnny keeps calling it a fish.
Yes.
And Jane's like, mammal.
I also will say that there's a scene where they stick a hand, like cybernetic hand, into liquid nitrogen, and it's like destroyed and crushed. And it's like another one of these like really cool, striking visuals, you know, along with the dolphin, that you're like, dang, this movie has like so much potential to be cool and have like iconic moments like that.
This is, I think, the third movie that we've covered that has a sequence like that in it.
Really?
The other two are cyberpunk classics. Can you guess?
Okay. Cyberpunk classics.
Yep. And it's tough because I don't think it's in every cut, but there's like a bunch of different cuts of one of these classic movies.
Blade Runner?
Yes.
Okay. And is the other one Terminator 2?
No, the other one is Jason X.
Oh.
Where his Jason's first kill in the future, not his first kill of the movie, because it starts in present day with literal David Cronenberg making a cameo.
Really?
He's one of the first people to die. But then once he gets frozen for 400 years, wakes up later in a space ship. His first kill is he liquid nitrogens a lady's face and then smashes it on a counter.
Wow. That's
cyberpunk classic.
It's cool. And then it makes an appearance in Terminator 2. It doesn't kill the
We haven't
person.
done Terminator 2 yet. We've only done Terminator 1.
Well, I've seen it like 100. I do think in terms of cyberpunk movies, this one might be on a little bit of the lower end for me.
Yeah, fair enough.
But I don't hate it. You know, I gave it 2.5 stars, which like implies that I didn't like it. But I think I just feel disappointed more than anything.
I do too. After watching a few, further reading type things about how the movie was made and how the creators wanted it to come out and how the control was taken away from them, I would also say disappointed. Yeah. Like there is the kernel, you were talking about the visuals in here that do really work. The plot elements that don't quite connect, but you can feel like there's something here.
Yeah.
It feels like there is a really interesting thing under a lot of stuff that was maybe forced on the creative team that they didn't want to have to include.
Yeah.
Like Dolph Lundgren.
And it's funny that the CEO of the corporation like knows this guy. Like in what context are like these two like kind of,
get me that guy.
Rubbing shoulders.
He's a reliable dude who we contract out a lot.
Pulls out the crucifixion knife and he's like, yeah, let's kill.
Yeah, let's do it. Like, okay, this is the guy, I guess.
And I think like what's so funny is that Keanu goes on to make probably like one of the most widely seen, if not, I don't know if it's the best, but widely seen cyberpunk movies of all time in The Matrix just a few years later, like clearly the technology and the funding and kind of like the artistic vision, it didn't align in this, but it definitely came together, for The Matrix. And I'm glad Keanu didn't like kind of swear off the cyberpunk genre after kind of being at the whim of a studio. It's really funny how just 4 years later, right, the Matrix comes out and kind of changes the game for what we know and appreciate it as the cyberpunk genre. Yeah.
I got a couple details wrong. So Johnny Mnemonic gets greenlit after Speed becomes a big hit. Not Speed becoming a big hit wasn't in between. Okay. But that's how it got greenlit. It was supposed to be with Val Kilmer, and then Val Kilmer. I pronounced his name wrong. Sorry. It was supposed to be with Val Kilmer, and then he drops out. So then it's like in limbo, but then
he was in Heat instead.
Keanu Reeves joins. Right. I mean, it was probably right choice. Keanu Reeves joins, then it gets greenlit because Speed becomes a big hit. The black and white version was in 2022, not 2021. The movie was in 2021.
What's funny is on the letterboxes that it has black and white scenes, and I'm like, this wasn't in the movie, but I do now see.
That makes sense.
It's on there.
It makes sense. Yeah, it's all there. It's all there.
Yeah.
Cyberpunk generally, I guess we should talk about it a little bit. It doesn't really have like one definition, but as much as it does, it's probably like William Gibson and his stuff. So Makes sense. But yeah, we just talked about Blade Runner. I love Blade Runner.
Love Blade Runner.
Anything else? If this is on the lower end, what's on the higher end?
Blade Runner 2049.
Yeah.
I think I prefer to the original.
I've heard people say that.
You don't? Have you seen it? You don't agree?
I have seen it. I don't agree. I like it a lot.
Yeah. I think it's. I love Ridley Scott, but he's a kind of a fickle man when it comes to his adaptations and everything like that.
It's tough. I think it's the final cut is the actual director's cut of Blade Runner, and the director's cut isn't a director's cut.
Yeah.
But I like the final cut where it's like very obvious he's a robot and it doesn't have the really terrible, overly saccharine ending
which is from unused footage from The Shining. I'm sure you knew that.
Yeah, that makes total sense.
Which kind of fits the movie.
And it doesn't have the voiceover narrative.
I do like the voiceover.
You do?
I like it just because it's like trying to be noir, so like throws it in. I think
Harrison Ford half-asses it so much.
I guess he's a real jerk.
They were wrong. Yeah. She lived for 1 billion years. Yeah, she didn't die at all.
She was special. It's like, all right, Harrison.
Yeah.
Make him say you're gonna be in the next Indiana Jones, and then he kind of comes to life.
Yeah, that's it. That's all he likes.
I like that. I like The Matrix. Okay. I've only seen the first one.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Well, we've done all of them on the podcast already. Oh, nice. But I don't know. I was thinking of doing it again.
I sound like a broken record. The video game Cyberpunk 2077.
It's really good. If you are into games and were turned off by its extremely rocky, very public failure of a launch, they fixed all that. They've added more stuff. The expansion that came out maybe almost a year ago at this point is amazing. Yeah. That game is legitimately extremely great.
Yes. And it's the best version of like all cyberpunk because it feels it's very long. Like the world that you spend is very long. It's very like narrative and choices driven, you know. So if you like it, definitely give it a whirl.
And if you are into long YouTube videos, a topic we've discussed before, this is one I've brought up on the podcast before, maybe when we did Blade Runner, which is like 2 years ago now. But there is a channel on YouTube, Action Button Reviews.
Oh my! I didn't even know you were going to say him, and my stomach like did a little flip. I love him. Go ahead.
Yeah. So Tim Rogers, who used to work at Kotaku and a million other places, left there, started his own channel called Action Button Reviews.
You get about one video every year from him.
Yep. He did one season, then he did one episode of season 2 that was already like 2 years ago. He hasn't done another one yet.
Yeah. I watched the Boku no Natsuyasumi video recently.
Yeah, that one's great. That's the one episode of season 2.
The Cyberpunk 2077 video, which I'm sure you're getting at.
Yes, in a fashion befitting a sort of like open world, choose your own story game, build your own character. He broke the Cyberpunk review into a bunch of different sections that you're supposed to watch the first one, pick 2, and then watch the ending.
Oh, really?
But if you watch all of them, it's about 10 hours long.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
I had no idea. I know what I'm going to be doing for the next 10 hours.
And then I've watched all the sections at this point. It's just like 3 years ago at this point.
Yeah, I need to do it. And it's a good video.
It's an extremely good video. He talks a lot about like what is cyberpunk, and Johnny Mnemonic gets a mention at that point, and he talks a lot about Neuromancer. So watching that video is what turned me on to Neuromancer in the first place, and that's when I read Neuromancer for the first time.
Wow, that's very cool. Yeah, I think for those of us who maybe aren't gamers, but who are big YouTube fans, that could be a good.
If you need background noise for that much time, that's the way to do it.
I love it. You know,
it's cool. He gets into like, there's one on like fashion, there's one on the graphics in the game.
Yeah,
but yeah,
that's very cool.
The fashion one you'd like because he gets really into the specific William Gibson bomber jackets that are made by like one specific Japanese company.
Oh, nice. The one with like the batteries and then like the collars like light up.
Not even. It's just that there's a William Gibson story in which a black bomber jacket is really important.
Oh.
But there wasn't ever actually like actual black bomber jackets.
Oh.
And so a company started making them. And so he gets into like authenticity. It's a way to talk about authenticity versus like simulation.
Interesting.
And talking about like what actual bomber jackets are and like, oh, why the nylon bunches up like this on actual, military use quality bombers and why it gets into
Wow,
stuff like
that's
that.
cool. Yeah, definitely.
Anyway, so that's a review of a video game.
But part of part of the larger cyberpunk universe as a whole.
Yeah.
And it's kind of sad. I think like
Fashion's huge in cyberpunk.
Look
at the Matrix.
Yeah. I mean, look at Johnny, how he's like in the movie, he's kind of the odd man out, but there's some outfits in here. There's some fits.
Yeah. His suit gets worse over the course of the movie.
It does.
They've shot it in sequence, basically.
Uh-huh.
They had to do reshoots to do like the opening scene, which actually worked out. Shooting it in sequence, Keanu Reeves purposely like ate less and less as the shooting went on, so he'd look sicker as the movie went on. He does
look sicker.
Yep. Sometimes that's accomplished through makeup. Sometimes Keanu Reeves just started starving himself.
I'm dying literally on screen. Wow.
But like another thing where, first time filmmakers, they shot it in sequence. That happens a lot.
Yeah. I would love like a crazy production to do that, like a Furiosa, to like do it in sequence, but who knows? Yeah. Ultimately, though, probably one of the, we've covered some heavy hitters when I've been on the pod.
Sure.
Moonlight, Talented Mr. Ripley. Go watch those episodes if you haven't, or listen to those episodes.
I think they technically get uploaded to YouTube.
Oh, cool. But this was the worst movie that we saw that I've seen since we started, but not a bad movie. Yeah,
we've only watched Oscar nominees that when you've been on.
Yeah.
Or Oscar winner / nominees. So I think Talented Mr. Ripley went over, but got nominated for like 6.
Oh, okay. So. But it was fun to come in and like talk about a movie that isn't like well acclaimed, because it forces you to like engage with the material in a really different way.
I find Keanu Reeves to be a really fascinating presence in culture also. Yes. And is he a good actor, a bad actor? Is this just what he does?
Yeah. I don't like John Wick movies very much.
I love the John Wick movies.
I like the first one. I haven't seen anyone after. I saw the second one, did not care for it, and I've not seen the other ones. But I hear they're
2143 or 2413.
2413. You like the second one?
Yes, I love the second one. The first one is purer. The second one has a good level of we're getting the lore and backstory of the assassin worlds.
Yeah.
And it has such a kick-ass ending that just makes you want to run through a brick wall.
It's cool. I'll give you that.
And then the fourth one has the best fight choreography.
Is that the stair scene? Is that the fourth? I've seen it on Twitter. People are always like talking about the stair scene. Okay. Cool. Sorry. I think Keanu's an okay actor.
Yeah.
But I didn't like how like beloved he was on Reddit for a while.
Yeah.
But I think like
he seems like a really great dude.
He seems like a good dude,
which sort of permeates fan culture more than the performance.
Yeah. And so because of that, I do like him. I'm going to say it one more time. I do like him in Cyberpunk. And because of that, I've warmed to Keanu.
It's his delivery is what turns people off, because you're like, it's so wooden and weird and he feels so forced. Yeah. That works in John Wick when all of his lines he mostly doesn't talk, and when he does, it's always through gritted teeth.
Yeah.
Because but in this one, it feels like it's just such Johnny. An affectation.
Yeah.
And you're like, I don't believe anyone here is actually here, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But
and his voice has gotten so deeper throughout the years that it's like, what is your real voice anymore?
Yeah.
But yeah. I'm glad he's doing all right. He's had a hard life, so glad he's making millions of dollars, I guess.
Me too.
Throw a little our way to the pod,
Yeah, for real. Thanks in advance, Keanu.
Yeah, thank you. Long-time listener, first-time caller.
Yeah, exactly. I'm going to cut out all the parts where I was talking about John Wick. That was just for you.
Oh, okay.
It's so good. John Wick 4. It looks amazing also.
I'll watch. Maybe late to the movies.
Maybe.
We could hop on.
We haven't done any of the Wicks yet.
Wick it up.
Wick month. Wick weekly.
Yeah, I like it.
On a scale of 0.5 to 5, on any scale you're choosing aside from stars, what would you give the 1990 Robert Longo film Johnny Mnemonic?
I give it 2.5 night guards / mouth guards.
Speaking of night guards, I honestly could not clock who those like guards worked for that showed up in a few different scenes.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell physically where they were when Johnny was trying to get their attention and they were like in a truck. And then later they're like on a wall and they're murdered by someone.
Yeah. And the over the shoulder bazooka like blows them up. It's so funny because that character only
tell
has
if those were good guys, bad guys, unrelated.
Yeah. She only has one line, that character who shoots the bazooka, but because she has that one line, she gets paid royalties or whatever for the movie.
She's welcome. I hope Pluto TV has to give her money because that is how I watch.
Because she deserves at least a couple bucks for that. For sure. She shouts like Marilyn or Marlin or something and then blows them up. So I give it 2.5. I give it 2.5 mouth guards out of 5, and I say I'm ready to check in.
Yeah,
hit it.
God, I'm gonna go 3, but 3 what? There's like a lot of items. It's hard to not just go 3 psychic dolphins out of 5 for me.
Bringing it back, I think that's great.
Hit me. I'm trying to think of a way to like 3 me's who are hit out of 5. Maybe.
Yeah.
But 3
like
psychic
that.
dolphins.
Yeah.
All right. So the question this month, Predator 2, not a lot of like rosy options to choose from. And this one being pretty dystopian cyberpunk, not either, but I still think relevant. What is something from this vision of the future that you wish had existed by the time it rolled around? So in 2021, what from this movie do you wish was happening?
Oh, man. I really like cybernetics. Okay. I think that's pretty cool. Yeah. And I like
some wetware.
Wetware. I like the idea of like physically being in the internet. I think every time I'm like responding to emails, I'm like, damn, I wish I could be in my computer so I could be like sorting through them physically instead of like, analogically with my mouse. Yep. So I wish I could be in my computer.
That brings up an interesting point that I probably should have made earlier in this episode. But anytime you're dealing with fiction about the internet from before the internet looked remotely like it does to us today.
Yeah.
It is really impressive when it actually kind of gets at where it is, which I mean, they were basing it on what was already happening by 1990, but still like the way the internet's used, some of this was pretty close. And the fact that it is like in 2021, they're dealing with a global pandemic also sort of, okay, wow.
Oh, wow. Crazy.
So I guess
it was funny. There was like the scene when he's in, is it Japan? And like, there's a riot with people wearing masks. I was like, damn, that's how crazy. Yeah.
So I guess the sort of pithy answer would be the movie ends with Johnny, like the cure for NAS is given out over the brain and airwaves. They don't say it's not broadcasting. They like large cast it or something. There's a different word that they use for broadcast.
Yeah.
But, so yeah, the pithy answer would be, well, they cured the pandemic right at the end. Yeah. That was good.
That would be good.
If we had done that in 2021. But I think the fact that I don't know. There's still hotels, I guess. That's good.
That's good.
That launder your shirts.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. It's hard to. The cybernetics thing feels slippery slope-ish, but we'll get there. There'd probably be like, I
just want the cyber wire so I could, cut like bread really carefully.
It's tough to think of the amount of memory, literal like RAM, Johnny has. His storage capacity.
Yeah. My phone has more than his brain.
Right. Like, how difficult is it to upgrade that? And is it like extremely painful? Because it seems hard to get stuff out.
It does. 3 random stills from a screen can kind of make or break you. But But maybe some cybernetics. In Cyberpunk 2077, you can put like rocket boosters in your feet. Yeah,
and jump real high.
Mantis blades. You get them blades.
Mantis blades. I want a double jump.
That's all I've ever wanted.
I just want a double jump.
If I had a double jump, I would not be sitting here right now. I'd be jumping.
Yeah.
And
honestly, like knee replacements are pretty much already doing this.
Yeah.
It's not that far of a walk from there. Okay, so that covers just about anything. Anything else about Johnny Mnemonic, Cyberpunk, Keanu?
No.
All right.
I just want to end with one more. Hit me.
You can find yourself on Linktree. Linktr. Wait. Yeah, linktr.ee/late to the movies. I always forget. Find our stuff there. You can buy t-shirts, magnets, etc. I don't know. I found out that my fridge isn't magnetic.
Wow.
I bought some magnets on vacation recently. Really excited to add them to the fridge in the new apartment. Fridge not magnetic. What the hell?
Shrinkflation.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know what Samsung's on with these fridges that are made out of, I don't know, wood? I don't understand. It looked magnetic.
Looks magnetic to me.
It's not. That's why I have magnets on my circuit box instead.
Oh, I see.
Anyway, so you can find our stuff there. Thanks, Brady.
That's a pleasure.
And I'll see you next time.